When God is moving, you don't want to go before the time and have the circumstance pass behind you. And then when God is moving, you don't want him to go before you move. What you want is to collide with his will at the right time. Some circumstances, and then in other times he prepares you for the time. Could it be that you happened, not by happenstance, but God selected and placed you in this particular era so that he might be able to use you to bring about his purpose? I do believe that some people are strategically placed between ancestry and posterity in order to be the individuals who reverse the curse. Everybody in your ancestry might be negative, and God in time inserts you in the middle of your ancestral lineage so that everybody who follows you can be blessed. All God does is he has to take one person and insert them in a generation of curses and turn that generation of curse around so that everybody who follows will be blessed. It is important because when the fullness of time comes, he inserts into the affairs of man somebody who he intends to turn the world around with. And so God then, not only does he choose the person, but he also has to choose the time so that he can fix things that have been broken for so long. I believe that men and women ought to believe that my life is not just here for me to go through without a purpose. I believe that the significance of each one of us should be revealed to us, that God has placed me in my space so that something marvelous and wonderful will take place because I have existed in this world. I don't want to go too far with this, but you don't want to live 80 years and nobody knew you were here. You want to live a life that is so significant that others who follow you will know that God put you in a place and in a space that changed the whole situation of those who came under me. So the time would have happened anyway, and I found out that God prepared you and me for the time that would have happened anyway. And what he does is he fits somebody to go into a space that nobody else could go into because he ordained it so that only you can fit in that space to turn the situation and the circumstance. Everybody can't be a Martin Luther King. Everybody can't be a Malcolm X. Everybody can't be a Jesse Jackson. Everybody can't be a Paul or a Silas. Everybody can't be a Dietrich Bonhoeffer. God has to set certain people in a particular time to operate his will. And so then there's an instance when time is fixed. and then God manipulates you. And there's a time when you are fixed and God fixes the time to suit you. In another instance, you will find that time has stood still so that you can enter into the world and make the change that God has ordained for you to make. I don't want to get to judgment yet, but many of us are going to be judged because we didn't operate in our time. And that's why Jesus says, work while it's day, for the night cometh when no man shall work. Time, as the Hebrews saw it, was more than just a lapse or a passing of time. They used the word yom, and it means literally by day. And it is regarded as the most important concept of time in the Old Testament. One writer says, by which a point of time as well as a sphere of time can be expressed, unquote. It is a period of light contrasted with darkness. Just another period of light. That's what he's saying when he says, just another day the Lord hath made that I might rejoice. What he's saying is, I have just another period of light. I'm able to see my way. And I have to operate in the light to bring to pass the will of God. And because he's given me a period of light, I will rejoice. It's important for everybody who's operating in their destiny and in their purpose. You've got to see your way. That's why his word becomes a light and a lamp to our path and to our footprint, so that we might see the direction that God would take us in. This word yom is a period of 24 hours. It's a general, vague time. It's a sort of point of time. And it significantly alludes to the sovereignty that God has. Not only do I have the power to create human beings, I have the power to put them in a particular time. And when I put you in a particular time, I have the power to bring about my will because I have placed you in a particular time. Let me make an example of it, if you will. Come on and help me, Chris. Now, it's important to understand that your timing is essential to your blessing. I remember in my own life when I was outside of the right timing of God, because oftentimes your behavior can keep you out of the time that God has ordained for you to make a move. It's not that it aborts his will, it just slows down the process. And many times you have to wait until things go round again before you can be inserted in the right place. How many times have you stepped into something before the time, only to find out that what you should have had is coming along after you have moved into something you shouldn't have? I guess every divorcee in here would tell me that I stepped into something I shouldn't have stepped in before the time. You see, when God is moving, you don't want to go before the time and have the circumstance pass behind you. And then when God is moving, you don't want him to go before you move. What you want is to collide with his will at the right time. I feel like preaching here. You see, one of the key things then that relates to time is to understand the significance of patience. Because what patience suggests is you have moved before the time that God has ordained. That's why I understand now the timing of God, but I also understand the placing of God. Not only does God operate the time, but he operates the place. In other words, you can be in the right place at the wrong time, and you can be in the wrong place at the right time. You see, God not only manipulates the time, but he manipulates the place. And if you're out of place at the right time, you still miss. If you're out of time at the right place, you still miss. What you want God to do is to put you in the right place at the right time. Oh, I feel God talking to somebody here. Your blessings are timed, and your placing is timed. When the Lord told Elijah, he said, I want you to be at the brook Cherith, and I want you to be there because the ravens are going to come to feed you. Now, what I've discovered is that your blessing doesn't come looking for you. You have to be in the place to be blessed, and you have to be there at the right time. You see, it doesn't make sense for me to have a more arduous schedule at this time in my life. I'm too old to be catching planes every minute. You see, that time was earlier in my life, which means then that you have to have the kind of cognitive energy to make adjustments based on the time, because God can only move in certain ways at certain times, and he is a God of time. That's why he works 6 days. On the 7th day he rests, and what he indicates to you is that I am a God of timing. That's why you don't sit around and procrastinate, but you move while the iron is hot. That's why he declares, work while it's day, for the night cometh when no man shall work. You don't want to be outside of your right time. And so significantly, it alludes then to the sovereignty of God. And God being eternal, he introduces time as a way to operate in revelatory experiences towards man. And what he does, because he antedates time, he declares before the day was, I am he. Whenever it comes to your timing, you have to understand it's God who's making the move. That's why he tells us, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. And part of directing your path is being in the right place at the right time. Lord, don't allow me to move before you're ready. And Lord, don't allow me to stay when you're ready. Put me in the place that folk will look and say, it's got to have been a miracle for you to have been in that place. Because God is a God of timing and a God of season. Can I take it further? He transcends the time. And the reason why, as the psalmist said in Psalm 90 and verse 4, for 1,000 years in thy sight are but as yesterday when it is past, and it is as a watch in the night. He is so eternal that he's not even bothered by time. It's you and I who needs time. God does not need time. because a year, 1,000 years is as a day in his sight. You know, I've got to understand the workings of God. And this is why God will say to each one of us, always be patient and be ready to move in my timing. Because I am not moved by time, but I move you in time. And I place you in places where the devil can't touch you, because I have used time to eliminate his move. Where time he gets ready to move, I have already placed you where I want you. Can I preach like I feel it? I'm going to preach until I feel better, I promise. You know, I went to get a job once, and I was going to school in Columbus, Ohio. And I was doing seminary in Columbus, and I needed a job. I needed a job because I saw a woman that I thought I would marry, and if you're going to get married, you need a job. And so consequently, I went down to Bristol Myers in order to see could I get a job. I was not a science major. I majored in arts. But this job called for a science major, and I went anyway and applied into the lab. When I got down there, they told me that they were not hiring, and they sent me back home. A week later, they called me and they said, we are hiring. Would you come and take this job? Now, 10 years later, what I discovered was that in the time between they said they weren't hiring and the time they called me, they had an edict from the Home Office to say that you need to hire minorities. I just happened to go just before the edict. And what I've come to conclude is that God knew when he was going to tell them to hire a minority. So God sent me there just before he made them make the edict to hire. Had I not gone, they would have hired somebody else. Because when God moves you into a place, a no is not a no as it seems to be, because God knows when he is going to move somebody in your favor. That's why in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he will direct thy path. I need you just to touch somebody and tell them it's your time. You see, he operates and he shows us now that he prepares the light and the sun, and he manipulates the time for Joshua. If you remember very carefully, he manipulated the time so that Joshua could have the victory. What he did was he slowed the time. I don't know if God has ever slowed the time on your behalf, but sometimes the Lord allows you the second chance because he reverses the situation. A little bit like Superman. He just rolls round and sends the earth backwards. Anytime God can slow down something on your behalf, you can praise him because he did not allow the thing to get away from you. I was slow moving, but God slowed things down so that I might have another chance at what he decides he wants me to have.
Order your copy of this powerful message from Bishop Noel Jones.
I was slow moving, but God slowed things down so that I might have another chance at what he decides he wants me to have. In other words, he can miraculously move so that he can fix things for you. And he moves people out of the way to put a place for you. Somebody was employed 20 years ago just to give you a job tomorrow. God didn't put them there for their sake. He put them there for your sake. And if you move when he tells you to move, everything is already in place.
You can order a copy of today's message on CD or DVD when you write to us. Visit our website or call 1-800-526-NOEL. Get yours today.
Bishop Noel Jones would love to have you visit the City of Refuge whenever you're in the Los Angeles area for any of our weekly services. For other CDs, books, or service times, write to us at Noel Jones Ministries, P.O. Box 11149, Carson, California, 90749. Visit our website at noeljonesministries.org. Or call 1-800-526-NOEL. That's 1-800-526-6635.